There was a king. He was ancient in years, but had the appearance of youth. He was a prophet, and more than a prophet. He had a great kingdom, and a people who loved and respected him dearly. A princess was sworn to him. She was full of beauty and had a giving character. He loved her with all of his heart, so much, in fact, that his love did not diminish even as she began to give herself to other people. She would let other people use her. This was a result of her desire to give. There was great scandal. He was advised to cast her away. This was an affront to his dignity, they would say. Sometimes she was gone for great lengths of time and found herself in trouble. When he learned of it, he would go to her and lead her out of her troubles. He loved her, and always he would welcome her home. She loved to give, and he would see her happy. He too had a giving character. A famine spread across the land, and his people began to suffer. "I will see my people filled," said the king, and he went to another country where there was grain. The ruler of this country was a wicked man and had no love in his heart. From all over the world, people were coming to him for food, but he made demands that they would not accept, and he would send them away empty-handed. Their people went without. This wicked ruler hated the king and decided to treat him cruelly. "The grain is yours," he said, "but if you want to take it with you, you must allow me to degrade you before the people of the world." The wicked one was full of lust and had a habit of coercing people into lewd sexual displays. He enjoyed the power he felt when watching them submit. The king loved his people, and he would see his people satisfied. He did not hesitate, for he was full of love. He accepted the terms, and the wicked ruler treated him cruelly before the whole world. "Dance," he said, and the king danced. It was a dance of great beauty, filled with grace and athleticism. It was as though God himself were directing him, such was the grace. Everyone fell silent and watched, as before them was great truth. The wicked ruler was angered. This was not what he had intended. He directed lines of men to use the king and gave him to animals. The king gave himself for his people. He did not care for reputation. He cared for his people. The king was handed over to the desires of dogs so that his people might be filled and the whole world knew. Whomever or whatever he was given to, the king always gave himself fully and shared his love. He was allowed to go home for a time to see his kingdom and return to uproar. The press hounded him to give an account of himself. He was wroth. "I come home sore, and you heap shame upon me. Yet if thousands had come home in bags, you would have showered me with esteem. What's wrong with you? Blind guides, you lecture me about honor. What do you know of it? What happened to the love in your hearts?" His nobility were greatly offended by him, for they had held him in such high esteem and had linked their own prestige to his. They were ashamed of him and were thinking of having him replaced. The king was furious. "You den of vipers," he said, "you have not thought through your scheme. If you cast me aside, who will take my place? Which of you will offer himself for the people? They have food and are satisfied. Will you dare to take it from them?" They were stunned. They feared the response of the people, for not one among them was prepared to take the place of the king. Not one of them would drink from his cup. The king went away again to gather more grain. Whilst he was being used before the world, the wicked ruler had a woman brought out to him. It was his princess, and it struck him in that moment that had he not given himself in this way for his people, she would have endured these trials in his place, alone. The wicked ruler had a group of men use the princess and the king. They gave themselves willingly and fully. They gazed into each other's eyes, and understanding passed between them. Looking back at the men with looks of pure love, the beauty in them reached out and caused the men to complete. In a moment of peace, before the eyes of the world, the two lovers reached for each other and held hands. Slowly, they slid together and embraced. Then came a miracle. All eyes were upon them, and total silence fell. They began to make love, but this wasn't a cruel taking or an act of lust. They gave themselves each to the other, full of tenderness, full of love. The people of the world saw a great truth and were forever changed. Hearts softened. Even the wicked ruler watched in silence. To him this was utterly new and strange. It sparked curiosity in him. The people of the world had laughed at the king and mocked him in the beginning, but they were ravenously hungry. They watched him give himself for his people and began to grumble. "This man serves his people and cares for them," they said. "Because he does this, his people are filled." They looked to their rulers and began to pressure them. "We are hungry. Why won't you do this for us? Why don't you love us like this man loves his people?" These rulers became afraid of the people. They did not love them or serve them. They sought position to serve themselves at the expense of the people, and they could no longer hide this truth. The pressure became so great that they began to step aside. They wanted esteem and power and wealth. They wanted the things of the world. All over the world, selfish rulers fled their positions and were replaced by people who had love for others, those who would serve. These servants gave themselves willingly for the people, and their hunger was satisfied. Prosperity came to the people, for the spirit of truth was within them. The wicked ruler was furious with the princess and the king. He accused them of playing a trick upon him and ordered their execution. When the executioner came, neither the princess nor the king protested. They would give everything for the people. Seeing this, the men of the court, the ones who had used the two, were moved by great love, for they had experienced the tenderness and gentleness of the two. They had been accepted by them. They restrained the executioner, rushed at the ruler, and cast him down. The wicked ruler was replaced by a people filled with love. The princess and the king went home with bountiful grain. Together they had many children, and these children were full of love and light and life and truth.